So, moving back to the purpose, or can I say still on the marriage covenant. The marriage covenant, as much as the world says it is between the bride and the groom, I will tell you that the marriage covenant is actually between three entities. There are three entities in each marriage. Now you'd be wondering, why are they three entities? Isn't it just the bride, the groom, they love each other, they come in agreement, and boom, marriage is done? Well, there is a third party that is involved in when it comes to the marriage covenant. There's a third party, there's a third, I would say, entity. Because we have marriages which are both believers and non-believers, and also marriages between non-believers and believers, we're going to look at all of that and see what I mean by having a third entity in the marriages. So the third entity, let's talk about that third party. The third party comes as a witness. The third party comes as a witness for both the bride and the groom. It is a witness in the marriage. In a non-believer's marriage where both parties are non-believers, the spiritual entity that governs their marriage is either the flesh or sin, whichever way you want to look at it, whether it's the flesh or whether it's the sin, because in that sense, it's about what they have come into agreement with. Both of them have come into agreement to say, okay, we have decided, we feel that we need to come together. We feel that we need to come into agreement, and because we love each other, we feel like we're compatible with one another. We bring each other joy or happiness, and we can build basically our lives together. So I'm going to just put the flesh there because it's not every marriage, and I'll talk about that later. But the spiritual entity that governs their marriage is the flesh. The flesh is definitely a third entity in that marriage. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to these type of marriages, if it's good people who are just genuinely good people, there will always be a certain struggle. There will always be a part where the enemy will try to bring in sin so as to make them compromise any kind of moral value they might have. You know, that ingrained moral value that they might have within them. There are some people who generally listen to their conscience. They listen to their conscience, and so they've got that moral grounding that everyone has within them to know what is right and what is wrong. And that's especially if they are trying to put in an effort in making their marriage good. If they're trying to make the effort to make their marriage good, the enemy does not like that. Why? Because anything that is good, it still sort of like reflects everything that he doesn't like. It comes against his own agenda. It comes against everything that he is trying to build, and which is basically anti-marriage. For the enemy, marriage should not even be happening. Like, he detests it. He detests it. And so because the non-believer's marriage does not have God to fight and defend for them, it is easily broken. It can be easily broken. But then if they compromise, okay, or if they are compromising in what they are doing, then it's most likely that they will be left alone by the enemy, because already they have compromised their values, they have compromised their moral grounding. So now for the unbelievers' marriage. Unbelievers now. So I've talked about the non-believers. Those are the ones who don't believe in any kind of they don't believe in any religion. They don't believe, they are atheists. They don't care for religion. They don't care anyway for spirituality or any of those things. But now when I'm talking about unbelievers, now I'm talking about those who actually don't believe. They don't, or they don't want to believe. Or they do have something that they do believe in, but it's not an accordance to the word of God. They believe in other gods. Okay. Now for them that are following and are openly agreeing to the enemy's agenda, you're going to see that those marriages seem to kind of flourish at the beginning. They are very flashy. They are very out there. It seems so attractive at the beginning. It seems so wonderful. Like if you see like celebrities and things, it feels like, wow, this is the kind of stuff that you want. This is like fairy tale. This is like so, I don't know, trendy. They are basically very attractive at first, because those are the things that will be pushed to the forefront. They will be pushed to the forefront of people's eyes, because they are basically advertising the enemy's agenda. So the enemy wants to push that kind of content to the people, and push to say, look, this is what I want. They are quick, they are lavish, they are expensive at times, and they are cool. They look, it basically is just being made so that people can desire it. And so because they are adhering to the covenant conditions of the enemy, their marriage has the devil basically in it. The enemy would be in it. And whether they are aware of it or not, or they've agreed to it or not, they are basically fulfilling the enemy's agenda. So what is the problem with this? If it seems like, okay, you know what, these two people come together, they believe what they believe, they are either following the enemy's agenda, or they are just not even aware that they are following the enemy's agenda, but they're just doing what they feel is great. It's not harming anybody. It's just them wanting to have their life and live their life and enjoy their life and build their own thing. Here's what the problem is, especially if these people are amongst other people that are looking to them, looking up to them, or they are people that are on social media, especially a lot more eyes are on them. Here's the issue. The marriage is showing to the people around them and the rest of the world, if they are online, a distorted view of marriage. A distorted view of marriage. And a distorted view of the purpose of marriage. So people would be seeing them looking like they're happy, looking like they're having a wonderful time, and they would want to imitate that in their marriages. And if they're single, the people who are watching them, if they're single, they would want to, they would have that distorted view and unrealistic view of marriage and take that into their relationship. So what they'll be now looking for in those relationships are those distorted views that they saw. They now have that as their standard. They now have these standards that are coming from or stemming from a totally distorted view of marriage. And the enemy loves this. He loves this because it would mean many marriages or people will be turning away from God and from what God intended for marriage in the first place to be like. And then they turn away from God completely. And in the long run, they also destroy themselves because those marriages will also suffer. So because the marriage, sorry, is under the enemy's agenda, everything about it becomes polluted, it becomes contaminated, it is twisted, it is toxic, it is abusive. And because the agenda is to twist and distort whatever is of God and turn it basically into anti-marriage and turn it into something evil or perverse, in the end, the parties involved become worse, or they either are victimized or traumatized, or on the other spectrum, they become calculated and evil, cold, perverse, addicted, adulterous, callous. And when they come out of those kind of marriages, they no longer want to go into marriage again because marriage has really destroyed them. They would be saying marriage really destroyed them, but really it's the enemy who has been really working behind the scenes to make it unbearable. And not only that, the foundation of the marriage itself, the decisions that they made leading up to that, and the decisions of being together when they probably didn't even have compatibility in the spirit, caused them to get to this point. Number 3, another problem with these kind of marriages are anything that happens in the marriage will always filter down to the children. It will always, I mean, we don't need to talk about how many people have been affected by broken families, broken homes. It has now become the norm, to be honest. It's become a norm. It filters down to the family, which means everyone gets affected. And for the Christian home, Christ is the head of the man, and the man is the head of the home. And so it covers the wife and children. However, in this type of marriage, the devil is the one heading them. And under him, anything goes. Anything goes. As long as it fulfills his agenda, anything goes. He becomes sort of like the puppet master in the home, manipulating, controlling everybody, and hurting them whilst doing it. Hurting them, hurting those who are around them, and all that stuff. So if this type of marriage increases, so this is the 4th problem, if this type of marriage increases, the fabric of society would be totally destroyed, because these types of marriages do more damage than good. I mean, we've got too much evidence right now to even be disputing this, that we've got too many broken homes. We literally do have too many broken homes. There's actually now a need for good homes, and it makes people to actually be morally corrupt and deceptive, and they don't trust anyone because of what they've gone through. They do eventually break down these marriages, and the revelations come out to just show just how many people have been affected, those who have been caused error. Basically, there's just a whole lot of lives that are damaged because of this type of marriage. Even worse if that marriage continues to go on, because that marriage becomes toxic not only to the individuals and the family there, but to everybody around them as well. And for those who still hold on to those kind of marriages where they know that this is not what it's meant to be, the marriage can actually become like a contract, or it becomes like just a badge of honor, really, that you put on, but really you're not really enjoying the marriage. There's no purpose to the marriage. It's just painful. It's just hurtful. It's just you're dying you're dying slowly, a very slow and painful death in that marriage because of wanting to hold on to that marriage as a badge of honor, or trying to hold on because they are children, as I just said now in the previous point, that the children are already affected anyway. They're already affected by it, so there's no difference. It's actually, there is a difference. It becomes worse because you are giving them a something that will cause them to not want anything to do with it. And that's why I say that there is a need for good marriages, good examples of godly marriages right now. It's sort of like in demand, like that is what is needed to see good marriages. So when marriage becomes like a contract, there is no love within there. There is no more joy. There's no more peace. It's spontaneous. It's not consistent, basically. There's no stability. And the fifth reason why this is a issue is, but if they ever try to work on a healthy relationship or marriage, the kingdom of darkness would fight against them to tear them apart, especially if many eyes watch them. Example, as I said, a large following on social media. However, others make it but find it hard to sustain it. So, whereas those who come to God eventually begin to see that their marriage was so much more than their own, desires and, what they wanted out of the marriage. And they will see that there's actually a greater purpose to their marriage in influencing society, and that it transcends even generations, even their own family generations. So there's a lot of things that are involved. It's not just about two people coming together. It's about bringing impact. It's about bringing influence to the world, and it's about bringing impact to your children. It's about bringing impact to and influencing the people of your generation. You see, like what I'm saying, that there is literally a need for godly marriages right now. People want to see an example of a goodly marriage, of a godly marriage, one that will last, and not just last. You see, this is the issue. There are some people who focus on the longevity of a marriage, but look, we had grandmas, we had our ancestors who stayed in marriages. But just like I was saying about the contract marriage, it becomes like a contract where they are just in the marriage for the sake of being in the marriage. They're in it because they don't want to be said they were divorced. They didn't want disgrace. I mean, if you were to look in the past, in the past, a lot of people found it very shameful to not be married or to be divorced, even worse, to be divorced. So, to avoid that shame, to avoid that disgrace, what did they do? They stayed. They stayed in abusive relationships, in toxic, manipulative relationships, and it actually brought a lot more harm than good. And this is where you'll see that the next generation just carried that with them, carried all that trauma with them, and passed it down to the next generation. And it repeated itself. Why? Because nobody confronted it. Nobody confronted the patterns. One spoke to say, look, this is not right. This is not how things should be. Is there no other way of doing this? Like, why are we, what's the point of this? What's the point of this marriage if it's going to always be about pain and bearing and suffering and all these things. Or if it's loveless and stale and there's nothing there, you're just two people who just happen to live side by side. That's not what it's about. There's a lot more to marriage, and I believe that the Lord really wants us to know that we are meant to enjoy it. It is meant to be also enjoyable. It's not just about purpose. We want to bring each other joy. We want to think of each other, want to meet each other's desires and all those things. And yes, those things are good. You need to enjoy your marriage. That shouldn't be the sole purpose of the marriage. So yes, God still wants us to enjoy them, but the enjoyment, the joy, the everything that you're doing, it should be through purpose. It should be about purpose. That's why I'm talking about the purpose of marriage.